My name is Misty and I'm 32 years old, a neuroscience researcher from Boston whose life changed after brain surgery. When I called my family for a ride home from the hospital, my father dismissed my condition as minor issues and left me stranded. What he never expected was that my brilliant surgeon would later attend his big promotion gala that same night. The look on his face when Dr. Griffin revealed who she'd operated on earlier that day was something I'll never forget. His perfect reputation crumbled before my eyes. If you're watching this video right now, I'd love to know where you're viewing from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to hear how my lowest moment led to my greatest strength. I've dedicated my entire adult life to neuroscience research at one of Boston's most prestigious medical centers. The irony that I ended up needing brain surgery myself isn't lost on me. But to understand why my family's abandonment cut so deep, you need to know about the Hamilton family dynamics. My father, Thomas Hamilton, isn't just any hospital administrator. He's the kind whose name appears on donor walls and in newspaper articles about healthcare innovation. His 30-year career trajectory has been nothing short of meteoric, each promotion cementing his reputation as a visionary leader in hospital management. His professional image has always been his most prized possession. My mother Diana exists primarily in his shadow. A socialite who chairs charity committees and hosts fundraising galas, she's perfected the art of the supportive wife. Whatever decision my father makes, she backs without question. Her standard response to any family conflict has always been, "Your father knows best, Misty." Then there's my younger brother Jordan. From the moment he was born, it was clear he was the child my father had been waiting for. The son who would carry on the Hamilton legacy. While I gravitated towards science and research, Jordan followed the exact path our father laid out: business school, hospital administration, and carefully orchestrated career advancements under our father's watchful guidance. I was always the outlier. When I chose neuroscience research instead of the administrative track my father had planned, the distance between us grew from a crack to a chasm. "Researchers are just support staff, Misty," he told me once during a family dinner. "The real decisions, the important work happens in administration." My achievements were routinely minimized. When I published my first research paper, my father glanced at it and said, "Interesting hobby." When I received a grant, he wondered aloud if it was one of those diversity initiatives. Nothing I accomplished ever seemed to matter unless it somehow reflected well on him. The headaches started about a year ago. At first I dismissed them as stress, lack of sleep, too much screen time. When my vision began blurring occasionally, I blamed it on exhaustion. It wasn't until I collapsed during a presentation that I finally sought medical help. The MRI results came back with the kind of clarity that changes everything: a 3-centimeter tumor pressing against my optic nerve. Non-malignant, the neurologist assured me, but requiring immediate surgical intervention. When I called my parents with the news, my father's first question wasn't about my prognosis. It was, "Who else at the hospital knows about this?" During family dinner that Sunday, he laid out his concerns. "There's no need to make a big deal of this," he said, cutting his steak with surgical precision. "These procedures are routine nowadays. Let's keep this within the family. No point in alarming your colleagues or generating workplace gossip." My mother nodded in agreement, passing the potatoes. "Your father's right, dear. People might misunderstand and think it's something serious." "It is serious," I countered. "There's a tumor in my brain." My father's knife paused mid-cut. "It's non-malignant. Calling it a tumor is unnecessarily dramatic. It's a growth. A minor issue that requires standard intervention." Jordan, ever the loyal son, jumped in. "Dad's just trying to help you manage this professionally, Misty. You know how people talk." That dinner set the tone for how my condition would be treated. My father engineered everything to minimize appearance of severity. He suggested I schedule the surgery for a Friday so you won't miss much work. He recommended a private recovery room to maintain discretion. When colleagues asked about my upcoming absence, he referred to it as a minor procedure Misty's having done. The only person who seemed to truly grasp the gravity of my situation was Dr. Elena Griffin, the neurosurgeon assigned to my case. During our first consultation, she spoke to me with the directness I'd been craving. Yes, it's non-malignant, she said, looking me straight in the eyes, but any brain surgery carries significant risks and requires proper recovery time. This isn't minor, Misty. It's your brain. We're going to take this very seriously. In that moment I felt a wave of validation wash over me. Here was someone who wouldn't minimize what I was facing. Someone who understood that routine in medical terminology doesn't mean inconsequential to the patient experiencing it. Your family seems quite concerned about optics. Dr. Griffin observed after meeting my father briefly in the hallway before one of my pre-op appointments. My father believes appearances matter more than anything, I replied. And what do you believe? She asked. That truth matters more, I said. Even when it's inconvenient. She smiled slightly. That's a good philosophy for both science and life. As my surgery date approached, the stark contrast between my family's attitude and my medical team's care became increasingly apparent. While Dr. Griffin patiently answered every question and acknowledged every fear, my family treated the upcoming procedure like a slightly inconvenient dental appointment. What I didn't realize then was how this contrast would soon come to a head in a way that would permanently alter my family dynamics and my own sense of self-worth. The morning of my surgery arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that normally energizes me. But that day, lying in the pre-op room with my hospital gown tight loosely around my neck, energy was the furthest thing from my mindestens. Terror, however, was a constant companion. The tumor is located in a tricky spot, Dr. Griffin had explained during our final consultation, adjacent to your optic nerve and close to areas controlling fine motor skills. We'll be using intraoperative monitoring to reduce risks, but you need to understand the potential complications. Those complications swirled in my mind as a nurse inserted my 4 partial vision loss, motor impairment, speech difficulties, infection risk. Despite being a scientist who understood the statistical improbability of worst-case scenarios, fear doesn't respond to statistics. It responds to the cold flow of pre-anesthetic medication and the realization that soon strangers will be inside your skull. My parents had dropped me off earlier that morning, my father checking his watch repeatedly during the admission process. We have that board meeting at 11, he reminded my mother, who nodded while absently patting my hand. They left with quick pecks on my cheek and promises to check in later. Jordan never showed up at all, texting that he had back-to-back meetings but wishing me good luck with the procedure. In their absence, it was Dr. Griffin who provided steady reassurance. She stopped by before scrubbing in, her confidence both calming and contagious. I've done this exact procedure 64 times, she told me, her voice warm but firm. And while every brain is unique, yours is in good hands. We're going to take care of you, Misty. Those last words followed me into the anesthesia-induced darkness. We're going to take care of you. I awoke hours later in the recovery room, the world a blurry, nauseating swirl of fluorescent lights and beeping monitors. The pain was immediate and intense, radiating from the surgical site across my entire skull. A nurse appeared adjusting my pain medication, her voice gentle as she guided me back to full consciousness. The next 24 hours passed in a medicated haze. Dr. Griffin visited multiple times, performing neurological checks and expressing satisfaction with the procedure's outcome. We got the entire mass, she assured me. Clean margins. Your brain looks good, Misty. By Sunday afternoon I was deemed stable enough for discharge. The recovery nurse reviewed my take-home instructions: limited physical activity, no driving, no working medication schedules, warning signs that would necessitate immediate return to the hospital. You'll need someone with you for at least the first 48 hours, she emphasized. Is your family coming to pick you up? Yes, I answered, reaching for my phone. I just need to call them. My father answered on the 4th ring. I could hear the murmur of voices in the background, the clink of glasses, Sunday afternoon social sounds. Dad, they're discharging me now, I said, my voice still raspy from the intubation tube. Can your mom come get me? There was a pause, the background noise diminishing as if he'd stepped into another room. Today, they're discharging you already. Yes, Dr. Griffin says everything went well. I just need a ride home and someone to stay with me tonight. Another pause, longer this time. Misty, we have the charity gala tonight. The hospital foundation won. Remember, I'm receiving that leadership award. The gala, of course. The annual fundraiser where Boston's medical elite gathered to congratulate themselves while writing tax-deductible checks. My father had mentioned it at least a dozen times in the weeks leading up to my surgery. "Can't you take a cab?" he continued, his voice lowered. "It's just minor issues, right?" the surgeon said. Everything went well. The words hit me like a physical blow, minor issues. Even now, even after having my skull opened, my brain exposed, a tumor removed, he was minimizing what I'd been through. "I need someone to stay with me," I repeated, fighting to keep my voice steady. "The discharge instructions are clear about that." I heard him sigh, that familiar sound of inconvenience. "Let me put your mother on." My mother's voice came through, artificially bright. "Misty darling, how are you feeling? I need to be picked up from the hospital, Mom. I can't be alone tonight." "Oh sweetie, it's just such bad timing with the gala. Could one of your friends help? What about that girl from your lab, the one with the curly hair?" "Alyssa is at a conference in Chicago," I said, the reality of my situation sinking in. "I don't have anyone else to ask." "What about a home health aide? The hospital must have services like that." "On zero notice, on a Sunday." She lowered her voice. "Your father's award is really important, Misty. The entire board will be there. We can come by first thing tomorrow morning." As a last resort, I tried Jordan. His response was equally deflating. "Sorry sis, I'm actually Dad's +1 at the head table tonight. Can't miss ET. Career stuff, you know?" I ended the call and sat in stunned silence, still holding my phone. The recovery nurse returned, clipboard in hand. "All set. Is your ride here? There's been a change of plans," I managed to say, my voice cracking. "My family can't make ET." Her expression shifted from routine cheerfulness to concern. "You can't leave without someone to accompany you, especially after brain surgery. Hospital policy." "I know. Let me talk to the discharge coordinator. Maybe we can keep you another night." After she left, the tears came. Hot, silent tears that slid down my cheeks and onto the thin hospital blanket. I wasn't just crying about logistics. I was crying because in my moment of greatest vulnerability, my family had chosen a networking opportunity over my well-being. Because minor issues was how my father categorized brain surgery. Because somewhere deep inside I'd still been hoping that something as serious as this would finally make them see me, prioritize me just this once. The recovery nurse returned, witnessing my breakdown. Her face softened with compassion as she handed me a tissue. "The insurance won't cover another night without medical necessity," she said gently, "but we're going to figure something out. You won't be left alone." She had no idea how alone I already felt. An hour later, I was still in the discharge holding area, now dressed in the loose clothing I'd packed for my hospital stay, waiting for some solution to materialize. The nurses had made calls to social services, but weekend staffing meant delayed responses. My head throbbed despite the pain medication, and exhaustion pulled at every cell in my body. A light knock on the doorframe drew my attention. Dr. Griffin stood there, still in scrubs, her dark hair now loose around her shoulders instead of tucked under a surgical cap. "Misty, I was just checking your post-op scans before heading out." Her eyebrows furrowed. "Why are you still here? I signed your discharge hours ago." The recovery nurse, who had been my steadfast ally during this ordeal, stepped forward. Her family had a scheduling conflict. They can't pick her up or stay with her tonight. Dr. Griffin's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. A scheduling conflict. After brain surgery, I looked down at my hand, shame washing over me, though I'd done nothing wrong. "They have a gala event tonight, my father's receiving an award." The surgeon was silent for a moment, then pulled up a chair beside my bed. "What award could possibly be more important than being there for your daughter after she's had her skull opened?" Her directness was both jarring and refreshing. No one in my family spoke with such unvarnished honesty. "It's a leadership award from the hospital foundation," I explained. "Very prestigious in healthcare administration circles. And they all decided to attend instead of helping you. My father's the recipient, my mother goes where he goes, my brother is his +1 at the head table." I attempted a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Career stuff apparently." Dr. Griffin shook her head slowly, then surprised me by sharing something personal. When I was in medical school, I had emergency appendectomy. My parents lived 6 hours away and couldn't come immediately. I remember how scared I felt even knowing exactly what was happening medically. She paused. But at least they wanted to be there. They drove through the night and arrived the next morning. That sounds nice, I said softly. It was. She seemed to be making a decision. What's your home situation like? Do you live alone? I have a small apartment in Cambridge, nothing fancy but it's mine. She checked her watch, then looked back at me with unexpected determination. Here's what we're going to Donnerstag. I'm going to drive you home and get you settled. I can stay until we figure out a better solution. I stared at her in shock. You can't do that. You're my surgeon. You must have other patients, other responsibilities. I've completed my rounds. My next surgery isn't until tomorrow afternoon. She smiled slightly. And while there are professional boundaries, there's also basic human decency. No one should be alone after what you've just been through. Before I could protest further, she had spoken to the nurses, signed additional paperwork, and helped gather my belongings. 20 minutes later, I was being wheeled to the parking garage where her sensible blue Volvo waited. The ride to my apartment was surreal. My neurosurgeon, the woman who had literally held my brain in her hands 2 days earlier, was now navigating Boston traffic while I gave her directions from the passenger seat. I'm sorry about the mess, I said as we pulled up to my building. I wasn't exactly planning on having company after surgery. Misty, I've seen the inside of your skull. I think I can handle whatever state your apartment is in. That unexpected bit of humor broke through some of my anxiety. For the first time since waking up from anesthesia, I laughed. My apartment was a modest one-bedroom on the 3rd floor of an older building. Dr. Griffin helped me navigate the stairs slowly, one arm supporting my elbow, pausing whenever dizziness overtook me. Inside, she efficiently assessed the space, helping me to the couch before locating my kitchen and bringing me water for my medication. This is a nice place, she commented, looking at my overflowing bookshelves and the small collection of plants on my windowsill. It suits you. It's nothing like where I grew up, I admitted. My parents' house could fit 4 of these apartments inside it. Bigger isn't always better, she replied, arranging my medications on the coffee table in the order I would need to take them. Now, do you have food here or should we order something? As she moved around my kitchen checking my refrigerator and cabinets, I was struck by the strangeness of the situation. This accomplished surgeon was in my apartment making sure I had soup and crackers when my own family couldn't be bothered to pick up the phone. Thank you for this, I said quietly. You really don't have to do all this. She turned from the stove where she was heating soup. I know I don't have to, but sometimes we do things because they're right, not because they're required. As we ate the simple meal she'd prepared, our conversation drifted from my immediate recovery needs to more personal territory. She asked about my research, showing genuine interest in my work on neural regeneration pathways. It's fascinating stuff, I told her, feeling more animated than I had in days. If we can understand how to optimize these recovery pathways, we might improve outcomes for stroke patients, traumatic brain injury, even surgical recovery, like what I'm experiencing now. That sounds incredibly valuable, she said. Where does your interest in neuroscience come from? My grandmother had early onset Alzheimer's. I was 12 when she was diagnosed, old enough to understand what was happening but young enough to be devastated by it. I paused, memories surfacing. My father never visited her in the care facility. He said it was too difficult to see her decline, but I think he was just embarrassed by her condition. Dr. Griffin nodded thoughtfully. And now you're at Boston Medical Center, that's a prestigious research department. Yes, 5 years now. Though advancement has been slow. I smiled ruefully. Ironically, my father is on several committees that influence research funding and departmental promotions, but he's never used his influence to help me. Says it would be nepotism. Thomas Hamilton, Dr. Griffin said suddenly. Your father is Thomas Hamilton, isn't he? I looked up in surprise. Yes, how did you know? The name connection just clicked. I've seen him at administrative meetings. She paused. He's being honored at tonight's Foundation Gala, isn't he? The Visionary Leadership Award. That's the one. How did you know about that? She set down her spoon. Because I was invited to attend. As a department head, I'm expected to make appearances at these fundraising events. She checked her watch. In fact, I should be getting ready for it right now. The implications hit me suddenly. You're missing the gala because of me. I'm missing a rubber chicken dinner and excessive self-congratulation, she corrected with a small smile. I'd say this is the better use of my evening. But, you'll have to work with my father. I don't want to put you in an awkward position. Misty, you're not putting me anywhere. I made a choice based on medical ethics and basic human decency. She reached for her phone. But this does give me an idea. Would you be comfortable if I let my neighbor check in on you? She's a nurse at Mass General, very capable and one of my closest friends. I trust her completely. That would be very kind but unnecessary, I began. It is necessary, she insisted gently. Post-craniotomy patients shouldn't be alone for at least 48 hours. If Lindsay can stay with you, I could make a brief appearance at the gala and then return to relieve her. Before I could argue further, she was texting her friend who promptly agreed to come over. As Dr. Griffin prepared to leave temporarily, she handed me her personal card with her cell number written on the back. Text me if you need anything at all, she said. And I mean anything. After making sure I was comfortable and reviewing care instructions with Lindsay, who arrived quickly, and with professional kindness, Dr. Griffin departed for the gala. What neither of us realized then was that her brief appearance at that event would dramatically alter the course of both our lives. Lindsay turned out to be exactly the kind of caregiver I needed that evening. Professional but warm, attentive without hovering. She helped me take my evening medications, checked my surgical site with practiced ice, and kept conversation light when I had energy for it, respecting my silence when fatigue overtook me. Eleanor has always gone above and beyond, she commented as she adjusted my pillows. But even for her, this level of personal involvement is unusual. You must have made quite an impression. I drifted in and out of sleep on the couch, the television providing soft background noise. Around 9:30 my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Dr. Griffin checking in on me. Attached was a photo of an elegant ballroom filled with black ties and evening gowns, crystal chandeliers sparkling overhead. Just arrived. How are you feeling? She had written. Better with Lindsay's help, I replied. Thank you again for arranging this. Her next message came quickly, the soup stayed down, no excessive pain. All stable. Medication working. Don't worry about me. Enjoy your evening. I was about to set my phone down when something in the photo caught my eye. I zoomed in on the background and my breath caught. There at what appeared to be the head table were my parents and brother dressed in formal attire, champagne glasses in hand. That's my family in the background of your photo, I texted, a strange numbness spreading through me. Front table, right side. The three dots indicating her typing appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. I just realized the connection, she responded. Thomas Hamilton. I didn't make the connection earlier. I knew you looked familiar beyond being my patient. You have your mother's features. I stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Finally I wrote, yes, that's them. Enjoying the gala. Several minutes passed before her next message appeared. Your father just gave his acceptance speech. He spoke at length about family values and the importance of compassionate patient care. I'm finding it hard to maintain my professional composure. A wave of embarrassment washed over me. My family's abandonment was now evident to someone who moved in their professional circles. I'm sorry, I typed. This must be awkward for you. Her response was immediate. Don't apologize. You've done nothing wrong. I'm the one who should apologize for putting you in this position. What position? Knowing that I'm watching your father accept an award for values he clearly doesn't practice at home. The directness of her message startled me. No one in my professional or personal life had ever been so forthright about my father's hypocrisy. Would it be appropriate for me to mention to him that I just performed brain surgery on his daughter? She asked in her next message. In a professional context, of course. As your surgeon, I should discuss your post-operative care with your family. My heart raced at the thought. Part of me wanted to say no to avoid the confrontation and inevitable fallout. But another part, a stronger part that had perhaps been awakened by the experience of having my very life at risk, wanted the truth exposed. If it comes up naturally, I wrote back, hands trembling slightly. I trust your judgment. Her response, I'll be discreet but honest. Rest now. Lindsay says your latest vitals are good. I set down my phone, a strange mix of anxiety and anticipation churning in my stomach. Lindsay noticed my expression. Everything okay? I'm not sure, I answered truthfully. But I think it might be eventually. For the next hour I received no further messages. Lindsay and I watched a cooking show, neither of us particularly focused on ET. My mind was at the gala, imagining scenarios playing out between my surgeon and my father. Finally, around 11, my phone buzzed again. Leaving now, we'll be there in 20 minutes, just wanted to give you a heads up about what happened. What happened? I typed quickly. I approached your father during the reception to introduce myself as your neurosurgeon. He initially didn't recognize your name when I mentioned you, referring to you only as my daughter in research. When I clarified that I had performed your brain surgery yesterday, he seemed genuinely surprised that it had already happened. My stomach tightened. I could perfectly picture my father's face in that moment, the quick calculation of how to spin the situation. Several board members were nearby, she continued. Your father attempted to suggest he had arranged alternative care for you but had been called away at the last minute. When one of the board members asked for details about your condition, your father described it as a minor procedure and changed the subject. I waited, sensing there was more. I felt obligated to correct the medical record, she wrote. I explained that craniotomy for tumor removal is major brain surgery requiring significant support during recovery. I may have mentioned that I personally drove you home when I learned your family had prioritized the gala over your post-operative care. Oh my God, I responded, equal parts mortified and vindicated. The board members seemed quite concerned. One of them, Dr. Vanna, asked for your contact information to check on you personally. I hoped that was acceptable. Dr. Vanna was the chief of neurology, one of the most respected physicians in the hospital and a longtime mentor to many young researchers, myself included. Before I could respond, another message came through. Your father asked to speak with me privately afterward. He suggested I had violated patient confidentiality and acted unprofessionally. I assured him that discussing a patient's general condition with family is standard practice, especially when that family member is a hospital administrator who specifically champions patient care. The courage this must have taken stunned me. Dr. Griffin had potentially risked professional blowback to stand up for me. I'm sorry if this creates complications for you, she added. But I couldn't stand by while he misrepresented both your medical condition and his own response to ET. Thank you for telling me the truth, I wrote back. Please don't worry about complications. I've lived with his version of reality my entire life. It's actually refreshing to have someone else see it clearly. I'm on my way back now, she responded. Lindsay says you're stable but should try to get some real sleep in your bed. As I let Lindsay help me to my bedroom, my phone began buzzing repeatedly with incoming calls. My father, my mother, my brother, one after another. I silenced the device and placed it face down on my nightstand. Whatever storm was coming, it could wait until morning. Tonight, for the first time in my adult life, someone had stood up for me against my father's carefully constructed narrative. That was enough to help me fall into the most peaceful sleep I'd had in months, despite the pain medication wearing thin and the dull throb returning to my skull. I awoke the next morning to sunlight filtering through my bedroom curtains and the gentle sound of conversation from my living room. For a moment, disoriented from medication and sleep, I forgot the events of the previous day. Then the surgical pain pulsed through my head and everything came rushing back. My phone showed 17 missed calls, 8 from my father, 5 from my mother, 4 from Jordan. The voicemails ranged from my father's cold fury, "Call me immediately. You've created a situation that needs to be addressed," to my mother's tearful pleas, "Darling, please call us back. Your father is very upset." We need to fix this situation to Jordan's hostile accusations. Way to go creating family drama again, Misty. Dad's livid and Mom's been crying all night. Dr. Griffin had left around 7 after ensuring I was stable and comfortable, replaced by Lindsay, who would stay until afternoon. I was sitting up in bed attempting to eat the toast Lindsay had prepared, when an aggressive knocking startled us both. "Are you expecting anyone?" Lindsay asked, instantly alert. Before I could answer, my father's voice boomed through the door. "Misty, open this door immediately. I know you're in there." Lindsay looked at me questioningly. I nodded. Resigned. "It's my family. I should talk to them." "Are you sure you're up for this?" she asked. "You're less than 72 hours post-craniotomy." "I'm not sure I have a choice," he replied. Lindsay opened the door to find my entire family standing in the hallway. My father pushed past her without acknowledgement, my mother and brother following in his wake. "Who are you?" he demanded, looking at Lindsay. "I'm Lindsay Reeves, registered nurse and friend of Dr. Griffin. I've been monitoring Misty's post-operative care." Her professional tone seemed to momentarily throw him off balance. He turned to me where I stood leaning against the bedroom doorframe for support. "We need to talk, privately. Lindsay stays," I said, surprising myself with my firmness. "Doctor's orders." My father's face flushed with anger, but he didn't argue further. Instead, he paced the small confines of my living room while my mother perched nervously on the edge of my couch and Jordan leaned against the wall, arms crossed defensively. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" my father finally said, his voice controlled but trembling with rage. "The embarrassment you've caused this family." "I didn't do anything," I replied, making my way carefully to a chair. "I had brain surgery. I asked for help." "You refused." "We did not refuse," my mother interjected quickly. "We just had a prior commitment." "A commitment more important than your daughter's brain surgery?" Lindsay asked, eyebrows raised. My mother had the grace to look embarrassed, but my father remained unmoved. "This is a family matter," he said coldly. "And it doesn't concern you." "Actually, as Misty's current caregiver, her well-being very much concerns me," Lindsay replied, unfazit. "An increased stress is contraindicated for post-craniotomy patients." My father turned back to me. "That surgeon had no right to disclose your medical information or our private family matters to the board." "She didn't disclose anything that wasn't true," I countered. "She deliberately humiliated me in front of my colleagues," he exploded. "Do you have any idea what this could mean for my career? The board is questioning my leadership abilities, my commitment to patient care, my integrity." "Perhaps they should," I said quietly. The room fell silent. Even Jordan looked shocked at my response. "What did you just say?" my father asked, his voice dangerously low. The pain in my head was intensifying, but so was my resolve. I said, "Perhaps they should question those things. Because I've been questioning them my entire life." "How dare you," he began, but I cut him off. "No, how dare you? How dare you call brain surgery a minor issue? How dare you prioritize a self-congratulatory dinner over your daughter's health and safety? How dare you spend decades preaching about compassionate care while showing none to your own family?" My voice was gaining strength with each word. Years of minimized accomplishments, dismissed concerns, and conditional love fueled every syllable. "This isn't just about yesterday," I continued. "This is about a lifetime of appearances mattering more than reality. It's about grandma wasting away in that facility while you told everyone she was comfortable and well cared for, though you never once visited to confirm. It's about mother's depression that you insisted she hide, because mental health issues don't happen in the Hamilton family. It's about Jordan's drinking problem in college that you paid to cover up, instead of getting him actual help." Jordan pushed off from the wall. "Leave me out of this, Misty." "Why?" "Because it's uncomfortable to acknowledge the truth. That's all we ever do in this family, hide uncomfortable truths." Well, I just had my skull opened up. I think I've earned the right to some honesty. My mother was openly crying now, mascara tracking down her carefully made-up face. "Misty, please, your father is just concerned about the family reputation." "No, he's concerned about his reputation." there's a difference. I turned back to my father. What exactly do you want from me? His jaw worked as he struggled to regain composure. I want you to tell the board there was a misunderstanding. That we had arranged care for you but there was a miscommunication. That this surgeon overstepped and misrepresented the situation. You want me to lie? I want you to fix what you broke. I looked at him for a long moment, really looked at him. The perfectly pressed suit even for this morning confrontation. The expertly styled hair gone slightly gray at the temples in what he once called distinguished fashion. The Harvard class ring he never removed. The man who had shaped so much of my life through his approval or more often disapproval. I didn't break anything, I said finally. The truth just came to light. And I won't help you bury it again. My father's expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. Then you're no longer part of this family. Thomas, my mother gasped. I mean it, Diana. If she won't help repair the situation, she's made her choice. I felt a strange calm settle over me. Actually, you made the choice when you decided your award was more important than my health. I'm just refusing to pretend otherwise. He grabbed my mother's arm. We're leaving, Jordan, come. My brother hesitated, looking between us. For a moment I thought he might stay, might finally break ranks. But then he straightened his shoulders and followed my parents to the door. My father paused at the threshold. When you're ready to apologize and make this right, you know how to reach us. After they left, the apartment fell into silence, broken only by Lindsay's quiet movements, as she checked my vitals and helped me back to bed. That was incredibly brave, she said, as she adjusted my pillows. And completely justified. It doesn't feel brave, I admitted. It feels terrifying. Those aren't mutually exclusive, she pointed out. The bravest things usually are terrifying. As I drifted back to sleep, exhausted by the confrontation, I wondered what would happen next. I had just burnt bridges I'd spent a lifetime carefully maintaining. Yet somehow, despite the uncertainty ahead, I felt lighter than I had in years. The week following my surgery and the family confrontation passed in a blur of recovery milestones and unexpected developments. Dr. Griffin checked on me daily, sometimes in person, sometimes via text. Lindsay and other friends from Dr. Griffin's circle took shifts, ensuring I was never alone during those critical first days. By day 5 I was able to shower independently and prepare simple meals. By day 7 the worst of the pain had subsided to a manageable dull ache. The staples in my scalp were scheduled for removal the following week, and the incision was healing cleanly without signs of infection. What was less predictable was the professional ripple effect emanating from the gala incident. Through hospital gossip channels filtered through Dr. Griffin and my own colleagues who visited, I learned that my father was facing an ethics review. It's not just about what happened with you, explained Alyssa, my closest work friend who had returned from her conference and immediately come to check on me. Apparently once people started looking more closely at his administration, issues surfaced. What kind of issues? I asked, both curious and apprehensive. Complaints about how he prioritized hospital image over patient outcomes. Reports he buried about staffing shortages. The way he handled that malpractice case last year. She hesitated. And some questions about research funding allocations. That caught my attention. Research funding. Alyssa nodded, looking uncomfortable. Some people are suggesting he may have influenced which projects received institutional support, based on personal rather than scientific considerations. The implications settled over me slowly. My own grant applications had been repeatedly declined for internal funding despite positive preliminary results. I'd always assumed it was due to the competitive nature of research dollars. Now I wondered if there had been another factor at play. There's something else, Alyssa continued. Dr. Vanna came by the lab yesterday asking about you. He seemed particularly interested in your neural regeneration project. Dr. Vanna's a neurology chief who had been present during Dr. Griffin's conversation with my father at the gala. The same Dr. Vanna who sat on the main research funding committee. What did he want to know? Everything. Your methodology, your preliminary results, why you hadn't applied for the Neuroscience Initiative grant. I did apply. Twice. I was rejected both times. Alissa Fraunet. That's exactly what confused him. He said your project was exactly the kind of work the initiative was created to support. The conversation left me with more questions than answers, but I had little energy to pursue them. Recovery remained my primary focus, with Dr. Griffin insisting I take the full 6 weeks medical leave rather than rushing back to work. Your brain needs time to heal, she reminded me during a follow-up appointment. The research will still be there when you return. Our professional relationship had evolved into something more personal. Not quite friendship yet, but a connection forged through extraordinary circumstances. She continued checking on me, even after medical necessity no longer required it, sometimes bringing dinner after her long surgical days, other times just sitting with me in comfortable silence when fatigue made conversation difficult. I've been meaning to ask, I said during one such evening, 2 weeks post-surgery, have there been any professional repercussions for you, for what happened with my father? She considered the question carefully before answering. He filed a complaint alleging unprofessional conduct, but given the circumstances and the support of the board members who witnessed the exchange, it didn't go anywhere. I'm sorry he put you in that position. Don't be. Sometimes doing the right thing comes with consequences. I was prepared for that. She smiled slightly. Besides, my surgical outcomes speak for themselves. It would take more than one administrator's complaint to damage my standing. Her confidence was something I envied and increasingly tried to emulate during my recovery. When physical therapy became challenging, I channeled her straightforward determination. When post-surgical depression crept in during week 3, I sought help immediately rather than hiding my struggle as I would have before. By week 4, I felt strong enough to begin reviewing research data from home. My team had continued our experiments in my absence, and the results were promising. Neural regeneration rates in our model system had improved, with our new treatment protocol suggesting potential applications for recovery from brain injuries. It was during this review that I received an unexpected email from Dr. Warner requesting a meeting at my convenience. No rush, he wrote, your recovery remains the priority, but I'd like to discuss some developments regarding your research. When you feel up to it, I agreed to meet him the following week at a coffee shop near my apartment, curious but cautious about his interest. Dr. Warner arrived precisely on time, his distinguished white hair and kind eyes exactly as I remembered from hospital functions. He insisted on buying my tea and finding us a quiet corner before broaching the subject of his visit. First, how are you recovering? He asked with genuine concern. Better every day, I assured him. Dr. Griffin says I'm right on schedule. She's one of our finest surgeons. You were in excellent hands. He paused. I want to apologize for what happened with your family. It was unprofessional and unacceptable. You have nothing to apologize for, I said, surprised. Perhaps not personally, but as a senior member of the hospital leadership I feel some responsibility. He sipped his coffee. Especially after what I've discovered about your research applications. My pulse quickened. What about them? They were never fully reviewed by the committee. He met my eyes directly. Your father intercepted them. Though I had begun to suspect something like this, hearing it confirmed sent a wave of anger through me. Why would he do that? I can only speculate, but the timing coincides with your decision to pursue neuroscience research rather than hospital administration. It appears he may have been discouraging your chosen path. The realization that my own father had actively sabotaged my career was almost more painful than his abandonment after surgery. Almost. There's more, Dr. Warner continued. The head of neuroscience research is taking early retirement next month. We'll be restructuring the department, creating several new leadership positions in the process. I waited, unsure where this was heading. Given your work on neural regeneration pathways and your impressive publication record, despite the funding obstacles, I'd like you to consider applying for the associate director position. It would come with institutional funding for your research and a team of 3 postdocs. I stared at him, certain I had misheard. But I'm only 5 years into my career. There must be more qualified candidates. Sometimes fresh perspectives are exactly what we need, he replied. Especially now as we reevaluate our institutional priorities in light of recent events. By recent events, I knew he meant the ongoing investigation into my father's leadership. The irony wasn't lost on me. My father's attempt to control my life had backfired. Spectacularly, potentially opening doors he had deliberately tried to keep closed. As I walked home from the meeting, my mind racing with possibilities, I nearly collided with someone on the sidewalk. Looking up, I was startled to find my brother Jordan standing there, appearing as surprised as I was. "Misty," he said awkwardly. "I was just coming to see you." "Why?" I asked, not bothering to hide my suspicion. He shifted uncomfortably. "Can we talk somewhere? Not in the middle of the street?" We found a bench in a nearby park, sitting with careful distance between us. Jordan looked thinner than when I'd last seen him, dark circles under his eyes suggesting sleepless nights. "Dad's been demoted," he said without preamble. Stripped of his leadership role, reassigned to administrative duties at the satellite campus in Brookline. The news should have felt vindicating, but instead I felt a complicated mix of emotions. "I'm sorry," I said, and meant not for my father's consequences, which were deserved, but for the pain this was clearly causing Jordan. "Are you?" he asked bitterly. "This is what you wanted, isn't it? To take him down?" "No," I replied honestly. "I just wanted to be treated with basic decency. To have my work respected, my health prioritized, my existence valued. That's all I ever wanted from any of you." His expression softened slightly. "I didn't know about your research applications." That he blocked them, I mean. Neither did I until today. We sat in silence for a moment, the afternoon sun warming our faces. Finally Jordan spoke again, his voice quieter. "He was wrong. About your surgery, about everything. I knew it even as it was happening, but I was too cowardly to say anything." He met my eyes briefly before looking away. "I'm sorry, Misty. I should have been there for you." It wasn't a complete reconciliation. Too much had happened, too many years of loyalty to our father at my expense. But it was a start. A small crack in the family narrative that had shaped our relationship for decades. As I continued my recovery in the weeks that followed, I found myself rebuilding not just my physical strength but my sense of self. Each small act of independence, each decision made without seeking approval, added another layer to my emerging identity. An identity no longer defined by my father's expectations or my family's validation, but by my own values and choices. Dr. Griffin continued to be a steady presence, our relationship evolving from doctor-patient to mentor-friend. When I shared Dr. Warner's job offer with her, her enthusiasm was immediate and genuine. "You'd be perfect for it," she said. "Your research is groundbreaking and your experience as a patient gives you insights most administrators lack." "I'm still not sure I'm qualified," I admitted. "Imposter syndrome," she diagnosed with a smile. "Common but treatable condition. Prescription is to apply anyway and let the committee decide." With her encouragement, I submitted my application the day before, returning to work 6 weeks after a surgery that had changed far more than just the physical structure of my brain. 3 months after my surgery, I stood in front of the mirror adjusting my blazer, barely recognizing the woman looking back at me. Not because of the surgical scar hidden beneath my hair, now growing back in a neat undercut that Dr. Griffin assured me looked completely badass, but because of the confidence in my posture, the clarity in my eyes. The associate director position had become official 2 weeks earlier, complete with an office overlooking the Charles River and a research budget that still made me dizzy when I thought about it. My neuroregeneration project was now a departmental priority, with 3 enthusiastic postdocs and a lab technician comprising the team I now lead. Dr. Griffin, or Eleanor as she now insisted I call her outside of medical settings, had become more than a mentor. She was the friend who celebrated my professional victories with genuine joy, the confidant who understood the complicated grief I still felt for the family relationships I was redefining. "Ready for tonight?" she asked, now leaning against my office doorframe. The faculty dinner would be my first official appearance as associate director, and also the first time I would see my father in a professional setting since his demotion. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, gathering my things. "Have you seen him yet? Since everything happened?" She shook her head. "No. He's been keeping a low profile at the Brookline campus. But several colleagues mentioned he's confirmed for tonight." The dinner was being held at a downtown hotel ballroom, the same venue where the fateful gala had taken place 3 months earlier. The symmetry wasn't lost on me as we entered the space, now transformed with different decorations but carrying the same weight of memory. I spotted my father immediately standing alone near the bar. He looked older somehow, the confident posture diminished, the authoritative presence muted. When he saw me, his expression flickered between too many emotions to name, finally settling on a neutral acknowledgement. My mother had reached out several times over the past months, her initial tearful pleas giving way to more thoughtful conversations. We had met for lunch twice, awkward encounters that nonetheless represented her first attempts at independence from my father's narrative. She wasn't present tonight, not being affiliated with the hospital directly. Jordan was there, however, working the room with practiced charm, though with noticeably less swagger than before. He caught my eye across the space and gave a small nod, which I returned. Our park bench conversation had led to sporadic text messages, then a cautious coffee meeting. Not reconciliation exactly, but the beginning of something new. Something based on adult choice rather than childhood patterns. Dr. Hamilton, a voice said behind me. I turned to find Dr. Varna smiling warmly. I see you've met our newest associate director, he said to his companion, the chief of surgery. Her work on neuroregeneration is going to put us on the map. The evening continued in this vein, a surreal experience of being introduced as a valued colleague rather than Thomas's daughter. I moved through conversations with growing ease, discussing research priorities, funding strategies, collaborative possibilities. It was nearly an hour before I found myself face to face with my father, an encounter that happened in the relative privacy of a quiet corner as I was returning from the restroom. "Misty," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "Congratulations on your appointment." "Thank you," I replied, equally measured. An awkward silence stretched between us, 3 months and a lifetime of unresolved history filling the space. "Your mother would like you to come to dinner next weekend," he finally said. Sunday at siebte Note request. Not even really an invitation. Just an expectation delivered in the same tone he had used throughout my childhood. "I'll need to check my schedule," I replied, a small act of independence that would have been unthinkable before. "I'll let Mom know." He seemed about to say something more than thought better of E.T. With a curt nod he moved past me back toward the main reception. "Everything okay?" Eleanor asked when I rejoined her. "Yes," I said, surprised to find it was true. He doesn't have power over me anymore, not professionally, not emotionally. She smiled. "That's the best kind of healing." The family dinner that Sunday was a study in contrast from the gatherings of my childhood. Held at my parents' house, but with my mother clearly in charge of the arrangements. My father subdued, still adjusting to his diminished professional status. Jordan making awkward attempts at normal conversation without the protective shield of our father's approval. "We've been seeing a family therapist," my mother confided when we had a moment alone in the kitchen. "Your father was against it at first, but after everything," she trailed off, hands busy with dessert plates. "It's helping, I think." Slowly. I didn't offer forgiveness. That would come later if it came at all. But I did offer presence, the willingness to sit at their table as my authentic self, rather than the compliant daughter they had expected me to be. The weeks and months that followed brought their own challenges and victories. My research progressed with promising results that attracted attention from beyond our institution. Eleanor and I developed a patient advocacy program specifically designed for those facing serious medical procedures without adequate family support. "We should name it after you," she suggested. "Absolutely not," I laughed. "No cult of personality, let's name it after what it actually provides. The Dignity Project, maybe." The name stuck, and the program grew, providing transportation, temporary care, and emotional support for patients who might otherwise fall through the cracks of our healthcare system. My relationship with my family continued its cautious evolution. My father never explicitly apologized for his actions. But there were small acknowledgments, consulting me on medical research questions, mentioning my work to his remaining colleagues, even attending a lecture I gave on neuroplasticity. My mother blossomed in unexpected ways, returning to the art history studies she had abandoned when she married, developing opinions and expressions independent of my father's influence. Jordan and I established a tentative adult relationship, based on who we were becoming, rather than who we had been. As the 1-year anniversary of my surgery approached, I found myself reflecting on the strange painful journey that had led me here. The tumor that threatened my life had paradoxically given me the life I now cherished. The family abandonment that devastated me had opened the door to authentic connections built on respect, rather than obligation. During my regular checkup with Eleanor now, a purely professional interaction since my recovery was complete, she asked how I was feeling about the milestone. Grateful, I said, after considering the question. Not for the tumor obviously, but for everything that came after. The clarity it brought. The strength I found. You always had that strength, she pointed out. The circumstances just forced you to recognize it. Maybe I conceded. But I'm not sure I would have found it without being pushed to the breaking point. Without you showing me what real support looks like. She smiled. Sometimes the worst moments reveal the best paths forward. Speaking of which, I read your latest paper. The implications for stroke recovery are remarkable. It's still early, I cautioned. But yes, the results are promising. We're moving to clinical trials next year. Research that might never have happened if you'd followed your father's career plans for you. The observation hit home. How many lives might be improved by therapies emerging from work I almost didn't get to do? How much had my father's controlling behavior nearly cost not just me personally but the patients who might eventually benefit? It was a sobering thought but also a liberating one. The price of living according to others' expectations extends far beyond our own happiness. It costs the world the unique contributions only we can make. As I left the hospital that evening, I paused in the lobby where a new plaque had recently been installed, listing the Dignity Project among the institution's community initiatives. No names, just a simple mission statement, ensuring that no patient faces medical challenges alone. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother, still on for lunch tomorrow. Yes, I replied, looking forward to it. A year ago these simple interactions would have been loaded with unspoken expectations and anxiety. Now they were just what they appeared to be, small steps toward a new kind of family relationship. Not perfect, not completely healed but honest, in a way we had never been before. The journey from abandoned patient to empowered researcher had been painful, complicated and ultimately transformative. I had lost the comfort of blind family loyalty but gained the freedom of authentic self-worth. I had experienced the worst kind of betrayal but discovered the best kind of support in unexpected places. Most importantly, I had learned that sometimes standing alone is necessary before you can truly stand strong. That boundaries aren't walls but healthy definitions of respect. That family can be redefined, relationships rebuilt but only on foundations of truth and mutual dignity. As I walked home through the Boston evening I felt gratitude for this hard-won wisdom and for the unexpected allies who had helped me find my way. The surgeon who became a friend, the colleagues who became supporters, even the family members who were slowly and perfectly learning to see me as I truly was. Some scars never fully fade whether they're hidden beneath your hair or buried in your heart. But they can become markers of survival rather than symbols of pain. Reminders not of what was lost but of what was found in the aftermath. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who prioritized appearances over reality? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes sharing our experiences helps others find the courage to set their own boundaries. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe and share with someone who might need to hear it. Remember that your worth isn't determined by how others treat you but by how you treat yourself. Thank you for listening and I wish you the strength to demand the dignity you deserve, especially from those who should love you most.